Let's jump to this next story from The Guardian. The Washington Post and LA Times refused to endorse a candidate. You know what that means? It means they endorse Trump. Refusal to endorse a Democrat from these papers is tantamount to endorsing Trump. And I'll give you proof. When the Teamsters said they would not be endorsing a candidate, Trump went, wow, it's a great honor. They're great people. And I'm like, what do you mean it's a great honor? They didn't endorse you, but they may as well have.
Has this been something that's been a precedent for a long time? How long have newspapers been endorsing candidates? Because just to me,
the Washington Post has done it since 1980.
Outside looking in, it feels like if any organization should avoid attempting to endorse any candidate, it should be the people who have been screaming about their supposed lack of bias for the last 2 decades.
Sure. Who did they endorse in 1980?
No, they've been endorsing Democrats, I think, every election cycle since 1980.
Right. So in 1980, they endorsed a Democrat?
Yeah, I believe so.
Which Democrat was it?
Carter. Someone can fact check, it
was Carter, right?
What the whole history is.
No,
I'm not 100% sure. I know that I recall seeing that they've endorsed a candidate every election cycle since 1980. I don't know if one of those happened to be a neocon Republican, but I do think there is actually a slight difference here between this and the Teamsters, because when the Teamsters, was it Sean O'Brien, the head of it, when he released the Twitter statement saying that they're not endorsing this time, he simultaneously released the internal polling data around how the rank and file, who they would have endorsed. And I believe it was something like 65-35 that they would have endorsed Trump. So it was very easy to say, well, listen, they wanted to endorse Trump, but they can't do it for political reasons because they don't want to piss off the Democrats. But in this case, it's kind of the reverse, because both the LA Times and the Washington Post, rank and file, wanted to endorse Kamala, but at the last minute, the owners of the institutions stepped in and said, no, we're overriding what the staff want. As the owner of this magazine, I am not going to allow you to put this out, making this political endorsement. So at both times, the staff actually wanted to endorse Kamala, but were stopped by the owners. This is, by the way, very interesting. This news.
They did endorse Jimmy Carter in 1980. Wow, that was sad. So, the WaPo editor-at-large resigned after Bezos is rumored to have been behind the Dem-leaning outlet refusal to endorse Kamala. The same thing happened with the LA Times. Their staff is all in outrage. They're banging on the tables like whiny losers, and they're quitting over this. That's wild. But I'll tell you, there was a post from, I think it was Dave Rubin, that he was driving in an Uber, and a guy was saying he's like a liberal area. Now I'm voting for Trump. You'd have to be crazy to vote for Kamala. I think when the Democrat institutions are worried about endorsing Kamala Harris, she's not likely to win.
Do you guys know who that guy is? That WaPo editor-at-large?
Who's that?
That's Robert Kagan. Anyone know who Robert Kagan is?
Nope.
That's Victoria Nuland's husband. and
wait, and who's Victoria Nuland?
Victoria Nuland was the Assistant Secretary of State for Europe and Eurasian Affairs. Basically the angel of death, toppling country after country all over Europe, particularly Central and Eastern Europe. She was the one who was caught on the hot mic with Jeff Pyatt, the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, when we overthrew the democratically elected government of Ukraine in 2014, saying, F the EU, we're going to install this new President Yatsenyuk. It doesn't matter what the Ukrainians want. It doesn't matter what the EU want. We get to pick the puppet president here. Victoria Nuland was personally handing out water bottles and cookies to the rioters that the State Department had pumped $5 billion into in order to orchestrate those renter riots. She's basically the color revolution queen of the Europe desk. She's now on the board. Since she left the State Department, she's now moved over to be a board member at the National Endowment for Democracy, which we were just talking about, the CIA cutout, which was created effectively by the CIA director in 1983. But here's another great data point on this random WaPo editor-at-large, who they omit is actually Victoria Nuland's husband. If you guys want to read a great quote, because I talk a lot about the Blob. I've talked, I said it earlier in our conversation here. It means the U.S. foreign policy establishment and its Department of Dirty Tricks. If you go to Google right now and you type in Robert Kagan in the phrase "love the Blob" from Brookings the week before the 2020 election, respect the Blob. We'll get there as well.
What respect the Blob? What is this?
Yes, this is
What am I looking for?
So Robert Kagan, Kagan.
I think I have your tweet.
Yeah, that'll do it too. There you go.
Respect the Blob, love the Blob, learn from the Blob.
So you'll see there the first image is, by the way, this is what a love story, right? Victoria Nuland and Robert Kagan fell in love talking about democracy and the role of America in the world on their first days.
And you understand when they say democracy, what they actually mean is totalitarianism.
Yes.
Yes.
It means
The hour in our democracy.
At the very least, authoritarianism. If you're politically disengaged, you might be able to fly under the radar. But anyway,
I have a question for you. So who at WaPo ends up making the final decision on whether they endorse or not?
Jeff Bezos.
Okay, so Bezos and like Amazon and Blue Origin gave money to Kamala Harris, right? At least if I remember correctly, gave a bunch of money to Kamala Harris, which means is a proto endorsement for them. Why would he avoid that from the newspaper but give money?
giving money might be just I mean, if you got a lot of money.
I mean, I understand the point of the.
Well, what I'm saying is, if you got a lot of money, you give money to everybody.
Yeah.
So that way you have favors, or at least can hopefully get favors. But
remember, Amazon is a major military contractor. They have a $10 billion contract, I believe, with the NSA alone. They also, I think, provide Amazon like cloud or Amazon. Well, yeah, I think it's their cloud contract with the CIA. There's so many military sort of intelligence statecraft connective tissue between the Bezos empire and the Blob, the military defense statecraft apparatus, that you have to make political donations in order to. It's a tacit pay to play. And I think in this case, Bezos has felt burned by the Kamala, the whole sort of Biden-Harris term. In fact, Zuckerberg feels the same way. You've noticed Sergey Brin and Larry Page from Google have been very silent this election. A lot of the people, they're milking them. Google went all out for Biden-Harris, and their reward was, the Justice Department is now breaking them up. Zuckerberg went all out for Biden-Harris. The reward is that they got coerced and shaken down on censorship, and then they were left high and dry by the Biden State Department when it came to the EU Digital Markets Act and Digital Services Act. But here on screen, what I have, just so you know, I'm not making this term up, the Blob. This is literally how they refer to themselves. That term is not my term. It was coined by Ben Rhodes, the Deputy National Security Advisor for the Obama administration, because of the Obama White House's frustration that this force within Washington was more powerful than the Obama White House. So they called it the Blob.
Is that because it just consumes and grows and consumes and grows?
Yes, it's this sort of amorphous, shape-shifting, alien, indestructible monster.
When you talk about the deep state, this is the deep state.
Yes.
This is purely the deep state.
That was the Obama term for the deep state, the Blob. And so this was 1 week before the 2020 election. Brookings, by the way, is the #1 ranked think tank, and think tank is a very misleading term. It is an influence. This is policy thought leadership. When Raytheon or Boeing or BlackRock or JP Morgan wants a policy in government, they sponsor the so-called think tanks to do it, and then everyone gets their cushy sinecure there as a career path. So Brookings is the #1 top dog in town for that. And 1 week before the 2020 election, there was a list of 20 policy experts, their advice to the next incoming president. And everyone did pages or paragraphs. Robert Kagan's was very simple. Respect the Blob. Learn from the Blob, love the Blob. Basically saying, don't make the mistake that Obama did towards the end of his term, trying to go up against it. Don't make the mistake that Trump did, trying to do radical reform to it. Simply subsume yourself into it. Let them do whatever they want, and you'll have nothing, but you'll be happy.
Remember when I said politics was depressing?
It's good to know this stuff.
Look, he just told you. All you got to do is, look, Brett, let me tell you, there's a Cinnabon. You go to the mall or whatever, you get...
I don't go to a lot of malls.
You get one big Cinnabon, you ask for extra icing, and you don't got to think nothing about no Blob.
So
you got to just get your Cinnamon bun. Ian, we got ice cream downstairs. Stop talking politics.
I'm getting hungry. We've been blobbed up for 70 years, it sounds like. And we've all had cushy lives for the most part. We've had wonderful lives. And that, is it possible that this is the least worst governance on earth? Like the American life in the 90s and 2000s has been spectacular for all of us for opportunity.
Relative to
the rest of the planet, pretty much.
They haven't been operating in the United States like they are now for forever.
And
right? Like there was a time when they had less effect on internal United States.
Like you said, the rise of populism is a big part of that.
This golden age is the good time that makes weak men, that leads to a fourth turning.
It's like all this money printing.
We don't want periods of, young Americans sitting around doing nothing and getting fat. We want a moderate degree of challenge and triumph and both. So what did we get? It is true that our generation, I don't think it's fair to say we or everyone, because there's certainly a lot of people who in this country who have had hard times and been homeless, and some people are drug addicted, but largely conflict-free for the Gen Xer and the millennials, having to deal with relatively little. I say relatively little because, of course, we did have Iraq and Afghanistan. We had 9/11. But now, after the 90s were great. Things are starting to get gradually worse. And it is because we have a generation, millennials largely, who, don't know how to work hard and accomplish things. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.